Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest in the series of podcasts with myself, Liam Carroll, a qualified financial consultant with SYS Wealth and Financial Planners. And the idea behind these podcasts is to give health to your wealth by speaking with experienced professionals and using their experiences to further your wealth. And today we're delighted to be joined by Brendan O'Brien. And Brendan is from a dairy farming background, and he worked in the local creamery for 10 years before taking leave of absence to study food science and business management. He got promoted to management on return and studied supervisory management at night. After 10 years in management, he joined Crestcom International, trained in the US, and is delivering Crestcom's leadership program since 2007. And Brendan is also in the NINA Toastmasters Club. Brendan, a very interesting profile. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
You're welcome, Liam.
Brendan, I suppose the question we start off with everyone really is the COVID. How has the first phase and now I suppose the second phase, how has it affected you on a personal level?
Well, I suppose we can merge the two of them together now, Liam, because I think we're nearly back to the first phase again.
Yeah, really, yeah.
But on the first phase, on a personal level, to tell you the truth, it hasn't been very negative, and some of it has been very positive on a personal level. For one of the things I do, and which I'm always aspiring to do, is read more. I've a litany of books, business books, personal books that I like to read. And I usually dip in and out of them. So since the COVID started, I've had more time to read. So I'm doing a lot more reading as well. That's one thing.
That's a big positive, yeah.
And the other thing is I like to keep myself fit, and I like to have an exercise regime. But with the ups and downs of each day, especially the nature of the work I'm in, pre-COVID, I was doing a lot of traveling. So it was hard to get in exercise and get in walks, cycles and things I like to do, except on the weekends. But since the COVID kicked in, I've got a routine going every day, either do a cycle or a walk, and I build that into my day, and I make sure I do, and pointedly I do it in the middle of the day as well, because one of the benefits of working from home is you can work at any hours you choose, and you don't have anyone down your back telling you, well, you have to be here at 2 o'clock, you have to be here at 3 o'clock. I like to take that freedom, take an hour and a half out of my day, and then maybe in the evening slot it in. I can work from 8 to 9 or whatever. So that's one thing. I've got a structure to my day when it comes to that. Another thing I've done, Liam, when I've more time in my hands, and since COVID kicked in, I've contacted people. I mean, we all look around and we see, God, I haven't met this person for ages, or haven't contacted this person for ages. I've made a list of people that I've lost touch with, that I should be keeping in contact with, close friends, even family members, siblings. And I've made a point of contacting them more often as well. So it hasn't been, on a personal level, it hasn't been that negative for me.
It's the real, that's the real analogy of turning a negative into a positive. If ever heard it anyway. It nearly takes away my last question about the best bit of advice you ever got, Brendan. But anyway, I could nearly use your opening eulogy there, I think. I suppose you have a vast array of experiences, I mentioned at the outset there, but nuggets of information that people can use for hopefully coming out of the COVID, that they can maybe upskill, or what would you think, Brendan, that people can do to make themselves better people when they get out of the COVID?
Yeah, that's interesting, Liam. I think since COVID kicked in, one of the things a lot of people had to do was to work from home, like what I'm doing now and like what you're doing as well, Liam. So working from home is the new normal for a lot of people. Yeah. And I suppose ideally blended working from home and maybe spending some time in the office is the ideal. But certainly a lot of people are working from home. And with that comes learning new skills, especially learning new technology, like what we're doing now, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. All that is really important. And it's something we should be doing all the time anyway, or a blend of it, but it's really forced us to do that. And, with new technology, and a lot of us are using it for work, but I would take that, if I was to give advice to people, I'd take it that one step further. How can we use this technology? How can we use the Zoom? How can we use Microsoft Teams? How can we use it in other areas of our lives, in our social lives? In maybe for volunteering or anything in those areas. How can we take that technology and use it in other areas? And to follow on from that, we have to embrace new technology, and that's change. So maybe look at change. Take the word change. What else has changed, or what can we change in our lives for the better because of this technology? And maybe one area I'd advise people, or which I've done myself in areas of my life, is look at our lifestyle. and ask ourselves the hard questions. Are we smokers, for example? And I think we can all agree there's no positive really to smoking.
No.
So can we change? What can we do? Can we smoke? Can we quit smoking? Are we drinking too much alcohol? Really ask ourselves those hard questions. Are we drinking too much alcohol generally? And sometimes you wouldn't even notice it. You would have a glass of wine or a beer ever so often, but you don't feel it building up. What can we do there? So if we can give up cigarettes, and if we give up or cut down on alcohol, and they're only two examples, well, then you have to replace them with something. So what can we replace them with? And the obvious thing is exercise. And I suppose I keep coming back to that because I think physical fitness and mental fitness are so tied in to each other. You can't have one without the other. If you're physically well, usually you're mentally well, and vice versa. So I think exercise is a key component of that, and especially getting exercise and getting fresh air, whether it's cycling or swimming. And I go back to my previous point of what I've done is I put a routine in place, an exercise routine when I had the time. Likewise, I'd advise people, if you're giving up something, replace it with exercise, fresh air, and healthy living. Even your diet, look at your diet, all these areas. And this gives us a perfect opportunity to do that, what the situation we find ourselves in now. And as I said, I'm blending the COVID back in April to May to now as well, because we're back into the same situation again. So that would be my advice to people. Give up things, cut down on things that are not serving you well. Replace them with something that can serve you well, both physically and mentally.
You've made a lot of interesting points, Brendan, and none of it is rocket science. It's
No.
stuff, really, isn't it? Like, it's just keep it simple.
A lot of it can be aspirational, but now is the time. Now is the challenge for us to make it happen.
Yeah, I better get going after this meeting.
I got to take my own advice as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like I'm like the cobbler, isn't it? The old cobbler at the time that everyone else's shoes are perfect except my own, isn't that it? But anyway.
Yeah, that can be a case, Liam. Yeah.
I suppose anything available using your own professional background for people that's underutilized in your industry that people may be able to grasp and use to their benefit from your professional experience now.
Yeah, Liam, there's a lot of things, and the course that we deliver, it covers 24 modules on leadership topics, on leadership skills, and one of the huge areas that transcends all the modules is effective communication and how we communicate with people. And I go back to, and I won't go into detail on the modules or the titles of the modules, but as I said, a lot of them go into the style of communication, the words you use, different personality styles, how we can converse and how we can communicate with people with different personality styles. And the one thing, and not only with the Crestcom course, but also in Toastmasters, what we learn in Toastmasters as well. And as I said, it overlaps a lot of the stuff I do on the course, on the Crestcom course, is how you use words. And sometimes we forget the power of the words we use. And what I mean by that is, if I give you an example, if I'm praising somebody, if I have somebody reporting to me, if I'm a manager in a work situation, I have somebody reporting to me, and I see they made a mistake. Okay, we can all make mistakes, or their performance isn't as it should be. Well, then we need to be very careful in how we address it and the words we use. And the key thing is to always, no matter how, and it's even going back to the Toastmasters, I'm thinking in terms of, if you give a speech in Toastmasters, there's always an evaluator to evaluate the speech. And this goes for life as well, or in a work situation. Well, no matter how bad you think the speech is, and I even hate to use the word bad, but if you take it to that extreme, there's always positive points you can take from a work situation, from a speech, whatever it is. And the first thing you do with somebody in that situation is you pick out the points. For example, you should never use words like, you should have done this, or I didn't like, or why didn't you do this? These are no-nos. These are phrases and words that shouldn't be used, because they just bring a person down, and they're negative, and they instill negativity in the person, and it's not going to improve performance in either yourself or the person. So just to turn it on its head, if somebody, for example, has done a speech, very good speech, Liam. I liked the way you did X, Y, and Z. Your eye contact was excellent. Your voice inflection was excellent. And pick out the good points. And then say, instead of saying you should have done this or you could have done this, just turn it on its head. The speech was excellent. My advice is to make it even better to do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And that turns it on its head, and it makes it's completely different. The person goes away feeling better, that they can go away and take your advice and implement it for the next time. And whether it's a speech or in a work situation, that'll improve performance for them, and it's more motivational than downing them with negative words.
So I actually came across, just as you were talking, 2 scenarios in the last week, and they kind of reflected exactly what you're saying. So it's interesting. It does happen in all our lives, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
Brendan, as you know, we're in the financial services industry, and just to ask, in your experience, what would have been the financial service, be it a pension, an investment, a protection plan, that you would have found most beneficial or useful over the years?
I think putting and money and even taking advice. Well, the first thing I'd say about finance, and that it's an area I typically like to leave to the experts. But having said that, I think it's very, very important to put away. Like I have 2 kids now. Well, I wouldn't call them. My boy is 17 and my girl is 14. But it's very, very important to plan early in their career or early in their lives. Put away money and put it aside for their education. I think that's so important. Education is so important. Put money aside, have a plan in place for their education. And of course, have a pension for yourself as well. And also have something in place in case that you get sick, or that you're immobilized, God forbid, for some way, or God forbid that you pass away at an untimely time in your life. So just to plan for all those, and it's so important, I think. And I would advise anybody to talk to yourself. I had a great chat with you there a couple of weeks ago on my overall financial situation. I think, and I would recommend anybody to talk to you or somebody in your company, because I think the advice I got was invaluable. So it's very, very important to plan financially. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Brendan, and thank you very much for those kind words. And just it's funny actually that you mentioned children's savings plans, and the kind of the product you were nearly talking about was a form of income protection as well, by your language. But it's amazing that I have found that they've proved very popular this year with people, and with the government's form of an income protection with the COVID payment, that people have utilised, taking out their own income protection policies, and then people have time to, as you said, thinking about college, where am I going to get the money? If it likes to go do medicine in Trinity, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, and it's something you can forget about. I mean, you never think, you don't feel them once you go to secondary school. You don't feel the time coming when they get to college. I mean, my boy now, Davey, he's going into 5th year, and I mean, before we know it, he'll be in college, and it's I mean, he'll be still drawing from us, so we have to be thinking of that.
Hopefully, with everything will be more normal times when he gets there. Anyway, that's for sure.
All going well, Liam. Yeah.
Well, exactly. You've given us I don't know, is this even a fair question to ask you, but you've given us an awful lot of excellent bits of advice in the interview so far. The last question for you, Brendan, that we ask everyone: the best bit of advice that you ever got?
I've got lots of advice over the years. I think a great piece of advice I got, and I might have 2 or 3, but I think the best piece of advice I got is, if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. And my dad actually told me that if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. I mean, what I take from that is to be true to your values, be true to yourself, and don't be sidetracked, or don't let others. If your values are X, Y, and Z, and you're in a situation, or in you're challenged, and if that challenge, whatever the situation or whatever the person, if they're challenging your values, you have to be brave and stand up for your values, and you have to let the other person know, no, this is in conflict with my values. I'm not going taking X, Y direction. I'm not doing this. I'm not. You have to stand up for yourself and stand up for your values. And I think that's so important. And I even a simple thing. And when it comes to values, one thing that I'm very, very, over the years, maybe it's the fact I went to boarding school, and I was always, when the bell went, you had to be up in time for morning prayer, for breakfast, whatever. And I mean, the bell went, you had to be down for break, whatever it was, you had to be there for. Well, I think that was good training for me, because one thing that that really, really annoys me is people not valuing my time. In other words, if I'm going to a meeting and somebody is late, I just don't like that. And I don't take excuses. Okay, somebody will say, oh, the traffic was bad. Well, I typically say, well, or say to myself, I mightn't say to them, well, I knew it was going to be bad. That's why I left early. So you're planning in time. So, and if a meeting is supposed to start in time, turn up on time for the meeting. If you're hosting the meeting, start it on time as well. And don't be waiting for stragglers, because otherwise the next day it'll go on to, if it's supposed to start at 8:30, next day it'll be 20 to 9. And that's only a simple thing. But there are other, whatever you can take from that,
Well, I'm delighted anyway, Brendan.
Best advice I got anyway. Yeah.
I'm delighted today's meeting started on time anyway, Brendan. That's the first thing I'd say.
Yeah. We started half an hour early, probably.
Half an hour early.
So you're a man after my own heart there.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it was coming, Brendan. You see. Brendan, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. Very informative. I know some people that have done a couple of your programs and have found them extremely beneficial, and you have a wide range of experience. And one thing I was told about you was that you're very empathetic towards people, that you listen and understand their problems and things. And I think that's a lovely compliment to get from someone, actually. And very best of luck in the future. And Brendan's contact details will be at the end of the interview, so you'll have all his phone number and email address, etc., etc. And thanks for taking the time to listen. And until the next time, stay safe. Thank you.
Liam.
Thanks, Brendan.